Welcome back to Operation Podcast, where we dive into the rewarding yet challenging journey of fatherhood while balancing demanding careers. Join us as we share real stories, practical advice, and meaningful conversations about being a present and an engaged father. Today I'm here with Aaron, and Aaron works for the fire service. And Aaron, you've been doing it for quite a while, right?
30 years.
How many years?
30.
30 years.
Yeah.
Man, so you've seen quite a lot of change in 30 years.
I have.
Do you ever get to a place mentally where you think back, like, how did I even get started in all this?
I do, and to be honest with you, I've never been more happy in my career than I am right now. I've seen a huge culture change, and it's for the better. Mm-hmm. I'm leaving. Well, I'm going to retire next year in June with 31 years on. That's the plan. That's the goal. And I feel I'm leaving the department in a much better position than it was when I got hired on.
That's like the tall tale quote, leave things better than you find it.
Yeah.
I mean, what are some things that you've noticed, things that have stood out about culture that you've seen improvements with?
I would say I love meeting the new people. And when I came on, new people, it was almost a hazing, in a negative way. You were treated poorly. And I almost got caught up in that. When I had 2 years on, they had a new class on, and I kind of had my sights set on these new guys, like, I'm going to treat you guys like they've been treating me. And then something in the back of my mind said, hey, you know what? Maybe some of these guys have something to offer you, friendship, or maybe they can help you on a project at home or whatever. And luckily, I didn't go down that rabbit hole of anger and bitterness and whatnot. And I decided, you know what? I'm not gonna do that. Two wrongs don't make a right.
Yeah.
And at that time, the pension was doing really well. I mean, really well. And guys were leaving left and right, retiring to get these benefits that the pension was offering back then. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, next thing I know, these guys that treated everyone poorly were gone. And things started getting better through the years. And now, like at Station 14, where I work, we have the kitchen table where everyone meets in the morning. And then there's some bar stools next to it. And then a captain put down Rookie's Row, where all the new people sit. Mm-hmm. And I like my chair. I got my own chair, and it says, got my name on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone knows that's where I sit. But I always like to turn around and look who's new, and then start slowly introducing myself to them and talking to them and welcome them to because we have a lot of new people. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. A lot of new people.
Yeah, it almost seemed, and I'm glad you kind of brought up the theme of camaraderie and culture. I just listened to some content that was specifically focused on culture in the fire service. Just organically stumbled upon it just this morning. So it's pretty ironic that that's a topic you're bringing up right away. And even me, I would consider myself new in the fire service. And you're always kind of taught as the new person, you don't speak unless you're spoken to.
Yep.
And take every opportunity you get whenever you see someone you don't know to go introduce yourself. Yep. So I love hearing you say that you kind of creep over to that. What do you call it? Rookie's Row?
Rookie's Row.
You roll over to Rookie Row and you start introducing yourself because, speaking from the lens of a new person, it's intimidating. And I'm sure it's not just the fire service where that's the case. It must be in in almost any career field where you're a new person and you're trying to find your place.
Yeah.
I'm sure back in the day when you were new, it didn't help that people didn't like you just because you were a new person.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And there were guys in my class that had dads on the department. And I watched them, and they didn't have as hard of a time because their dads would protect them in a way, just with name alone, you know?
Sure.
And I didn't have that. I came in, I'm a northern Minnesota kid. I didn't grow up in the Twin Cities, you know, and there was some nepotism going on, and I didn't have that advantage. So, but that's okay. I learned, and I grew through the years, and I'm better off for it, better person for it.
You speak towards nepotism a little bit. I think maybe, there could be a little bit that we're not ones to say if that exists or not. But one thing I really have seen and have come to enjoy about the fire service is we have the camaraderie of ourselves on our crew, but there's also space for our families to come and see us at work.
Yeah.
So I almost wonder, like your coworkers who have fathers on the job, maybe those people have come to know those coworkers as they've grown up. They've probably known them for their whole life because they've come to visit them at work. And, maybe there's a little bit of that, but that's certainly not an excuse to treat anybody different because you don't know them. But yeah, 31 years. So do you remember? You kind of spoke towards the beginning of your career a little bit, but what was it for the listeners? What was it that brought you into the field of the fire service?
I was going to school at the university, and I lived like 2 blocks from the fire station. I was living with my mom, and I'd see the fire truck go by, and I don't know, it planted a seed in my head. And I had a cousin who was a police officer in the town that I lived in, the city. And he goes, yeah, it's a great job. I know these guys, and it's better than being a policeman. And, so I went over to the fire station, and it said, if you want a free blood pressure, just knock on the door. And so then that got me in. And then I said, hey, how do you become a firefighter? And they told me go to HR. And that's what I did. And that started the ball rolling. And the year I graduated from college, I took the test to get on the fire department. And I got hired, I believe, 2 years later. There was one class ahead of me, and then I was in the second class.
For those listening that are kind of unfamiliar with the fire service, you talked about having to take a test. Is this like a civil service test or?
Civil service test, yeah. So there was a written test and a physical test. So you had to pass both of those. And there's people that were in the military that got extra points. I was never in the military. And I did get residency points. I lived in the city that I worked for, and I got some extra points there.
Yeah, it's always a benefit to have people in the fire service that were born and raised in the area they want to work because they have the knowledge of the neighborhoods and different parts of town. Yeah, I can see how that's going to be a benefit.
Yeah. So eventually, I remember I was working at a Boys and Girls Club, and this retired police officer walked in. Hey, how you doing? He says, you want to work for the fire department? I go, yeah. He goes, well, they called your name. You got hired. I was like,
that's how you found out?
Yeah.
Did you know this person?
Yeah, he had background checked me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was my background guy.
Wow, that's how you found it.
Yeah, and I was like one of the happiest days of my life, because I put all my eggs in one basket. I didn't want a desk job. I always tell people I took the path of least resistance. I have a geography degree from college.
I was going to ask what you were going to school for.
I love maps. And then here I am, a fire equipment operator, which is a driver. And I look at maps all the time when I catch a call. And, but with all the years on I have, I pretty much know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Once in a while, there's a road, a street I haven't heard of in a while, and I have to hit the map, but I'm good to go. You know what I mean?
That'd be cool for you to visit your alma mater and speak to the student body and say, "This is how I'm using my degree."
I actually got caught up in making maps, cartography.
Really?
Yeah, that was fun.
How long have you been doing that?
Well, I just did it in college.
Oh, okay.
It was kind of my what do you call it? You know, something that you just specialized in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and at that time, computers were just coming on board, and you used to do it manually through photographs and whatnot, and then today it's all computers
Sure.
making the maps, and I'm not much of a computer guy, to tell you the truth, and I made the right career path. I'm very grateful and happy that I chose what I did.
Yeah, it seems like you had the foresight to see computers coming up through their evolutionary stages, and now we live in a world of Google Maps, and
Yeah.
you would have been out of a job.
Yeah. Right? I know it. So I'm very grateful I chose the path I did.
You said a couple things. One being you saw the consistency of people responding to calls where you were living, where you were growing up. And while you were in your college years, you were working for the Boys and Girls Club, an organization known to cater to the youth of a community, whether they're troubled youth or not, but it's an investment in the youth of a community. And I'm hearing tones of service,
Yeah.
tones of wanting to serve your community. Tell me about that. Where does that come from?
Well, actually, it was a program, I believe, that was started by President Bill Clinton called AmeriCorps.
Mm-hmm.
And it was supposed to help you pay off student loans, and they will give you a stipend for showing up. Not quite a minimum wage, but it was something. And they actually put me at the Boys and Girls Club, and it wasn't easy.
Mm.
These were I would say borderline troubled kids, you know, but I was grateful that they chose to come to the Boys and Girls Club because it was a safe place. But they were rambunctious, and it took a lot of energy. I wasn't quite prepared for that, really.
And you were serving this was during your college years, right? You're college age at this point?
Yeah.
And the kids that you're working with, what sort of age groups?
Like mostly middle school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of still those
maybe some
formative years. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
correct.
So you were kind of put into a place, whether you call it divinity or not, where you really had some mentorship powers over a very, how would you say, absorbful age of students.
Yeah, I tried my best to give encouragement and positive feedback, and just try to fit in,
Mhm.
you know. And it was challenging, you know, because you'd get some kids that wouldn't trust you,
Mm.
you know, because I was a minority. as a white male, it was mostly African American kids, you know. So you had to get over that hurdle, so to speak.
Yeah. How did you gain that trust?
I just showed up, you know, and smiled and just, you know, talk to them by their first name and try to gain trust.
Hmm.
And, you know, there wasn't any fear involved, but there was angst because, like, are they ever going to, you know, befriend me and, you know, and, but still have a respect involved. And overall, it was a good experience for me.
We spoke a couple of days ago when we were kind of talking about having this conversation and recording it, which I think it's just, I'm so grateful that we could do this. You mentioned that there's a garnishment of faith in your life.
Yeah.
And from what you've already said and how you've been describing things, I can see this absorbent amount of, you know, you walk by faith sort of aura about you. Where did that come from? How did that get started?
My higher power, man. And his name happens to be Jesus Christ.
Mm.
And I rely on him, and he gets me through it. And I just like before this podcast started, I told you that I kind of cut a guy off in traffic, and I wasn't happy about myself. I got confused, like, you know, I need to get in this lane, else I'm going to be late for this podcast. And I looked in the rearview mirror, and he was not happy with me. And I'm like, oh, that's not who I want to be. But no, there's nothing going to happen. There's no road rage.
Right.
This is going to be good, and nothing happened. So thank God for that. But I don't like being that guy. But yeah, I try to treat people as I would want to be treated.
Yeah.
You know, and my faith is everything. And in the fire department, I don't really proclaim it. I just try to shine his light through me.
Mm.
And try to make everyone feel welcome and treat everybody with respect. And what you receive from that is tenfold. That's what I found.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the fire service, it has Christian origins. You know, the Crusaders of St. John from Malta and the Greek islands, you're wearing, people must know what they're wearing on their chest when they're at work. It's a cross. It's a Maltese cross.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how divine is that a man of faith like yourself found a career field that has deep origins in the Christian story?
I don't know how that came about, but I think it's pretty cool. And, you know, I just worked a short day overtime 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked with a young Somali female. And she's as different from me as can possibly be. But we've been friends ever since she came on. I won't say her name, but her name is part of a song. And I would say her name in how the song is delivered, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And she told me, she says, "Shu, you made me feel so welcome by singing my name out." And I worked with her, and I never felt more comfortable sitting in a medic rig at a concert site, outdoor concert site.
Uh-huh.
And we just sat there and we talked. And then after a while, we got on our phones And I have her telephone number, and I texted her like, "What are you doing?" And I knew what she was doing. She was playing a game, but it broke up the silence because we were both playing games on our phones,
fun.
and we laughed. And then we went for a walk and got something to eat. Came back, we talked, and I'm like, you know what? This is awesome. That and she told me about her travels abroad back to her home country of Somalia. And it was so interesting. And she traveled to Turkey, all these cool places that I've always wanted to go. They're studying at college, you know. And she's like 26, 27 years old, and she's got all this, you know, knowledge of all these other countries. And
Wow.
it was really cool.
I would hope that most career fields like the fire service can break down those age, gender, cultural barriers, and people just connect authentically.
There was a huge connection there.
That's great. That's cool to hear.
Yeah.
How have you, so for those that kind of are unfamiliar with the fire service, you know, you work 24, 48, somewhere, sometimes up to 96 hours straight. That's 96 hours at work, but on the flip side of the coin, that's a lot of time away from home, from your family.
Yeah.
So this atmosphere you've cultivated at work, have you been able to mimic that at home with your family?
Yeah. You know, I guess I've been fortunate enough to work these longer periods of stretches of, you know, when you say 96, that's 4 days in a row in a fire station. I never did that when my kids were young because that opportunity wasn't there for me in my position. Most overtime was just for firefighters, and I was promoted. And there was very little overtime. So I had, you know, I have 5 children.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm divorced, but we never ever paid a dime in daycare. My ex-wife's a nurse, and we would work around each other's schedule. So that, to me, that's a huge win that we never had to do that. And it wasn't until the last 7 years of my career that I really started working a lot. But my kids were older, you know, so it actually wasn't that big of a sacrifice. It was for me because, you know, looking forward to retirement. It's going to be the end of June, and I'm going to enjoy the rest of my summer not working.
Yeah.
Because I missed a lot of summers.
Man, yeah, after 31 years, I bet a lot was missed.
Yeah.
You said a father of 5 kids, adults. I'm assuming, what's the age gap now?
35 is the old, well, she'll be 35 in December, the oldest. And then my son's 27. And then there's a 25-year-old, the rest are daughters. So 4 daughters, 1 son, 25, 24, and 22.
Wow.
So 22 is the youngest. Yeah.
Your age gap mimics mine very. I'm actually the oldest of 5 as well.
Oh, no kidding.
So yeah, your age gap there mimics our family very closely.
And it's a blended family. My oldest daughter is from another mom.
Okay.
And then I got married after I had her, and we had 4 kids, but they're all my kids. I love them all.
Yeah.
And they're all special. And, you know, I was wondering if I would ever have a kid in the fire service, but none of them chose to go that route. That's okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe I'll get one.
You know, I had an interesting conversation a couple episodes ago with a therapist who gave me some really great ideas and questions for future guests about how you parent while you're working long shifts like you do. So do your kids know or have they known when they were growing up, when you weren't home, they knew where you were and what you were doing and how important it was?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They knew. And, they usually get fire trucks for toys for Christmas, and they knew who dad was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they would come and visit at the fire station. I still have lots of pictures of them sitting on my lap up in the seat of the fire truck. And
Mm-hmm.
so those are good memories.
Through the years, have you been able to find a healthy separation between you at work and you at home as dad?
Yeah, I have. It's a great question, because the first thing that comes to mind is some of the things that I've seen at work, and I've been able to leave them at work.
Mm.
Super grateful for that, because as you know, PTSD is a big thing right now, and and I've never struggled with that, and I that to me is a blessing.
Are those skills you've been able to cultivate on your own, or did you go through
Yeah,
any therapy or coaching? How did you develop those skills?
I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know. That's a great question. Could it be my faith that he's got it for me?
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. The worst calls I've been on when children have been hurt.
Mm. I've heard that many times.
However, for some reason, I've been able to go home. And I mean, the first thing I thought of was, I want to go home now. I want to see my kids,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I've been able to just move on. I think about, I've had my ex brother in law was a police officer, and he had to deal with sex crimes.
Mm.
And some of the things that he had to see, I don't know if I could have handled that. And that's a whole different subject.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah. And he would tell me, and I'm like, I don't know how you do it. At the same token, I've seen some bad things happen to children.
Mm.
And I've just been able to, I'll give you one example. It was a baby, and the boyfriend, let's abuse it to death. And I remember the captain saying a prayer over the baby. And I was a firefighter. No.
Were you a father?
Yeah. And I was just taking it all in. I didn't know how to react or act, but I liked the fact that the captain was saying a prayer at that time for right over the baby. He did the sign of the cross. He was Catholic, and I knew that, and I was grateful for that baby had a blessing. And so I remember it vividly, but I've never had nightmares about it or anything, and I don't know why that is.
Do you remember coming off shift from that call and coming home to your kids? Remember that atmosphere walking through the front door? And
I see that baby vividly, and then it stops. I don't know what happened after that. I don't remember going home or anything. And I just remember that I wanted to be home. I remember being at the hospital and hearing screams from kids in car accidents. And I just I want to go home. I don't remember going home. I just remember the screams. But like I said, by the grace of God, I've never had any nightmares or anything that could mentally bring me down. You know what I mean?
that's really impressive. Yeah, it sounds like you found some very clear, healthy ways to disconnect.
That's a good way of putting it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
How about I want to ask you, when you're at work and you're working these shifts, at times you can be available for a phone call or whatever, but there's times where you need to be 100% focused on what you're doing, be present in the moment. Have you found parenting techniques to parent when you're away or extra parent when you come home? Like how did discipline look like with kids or how did balancing relationships look like?
Ooh, another toughie. Because for one, as a driver, my phone does go off when I'm driving. I cannot answer it. And if I'm at a stoplight, I'll answer the call. I'll swipe over to answer it and said, I'm on a call. And all I hear is, okay. And doop, they hang up. I'll only do that for my kids. Just, and if I'm at a stop sign, because I don't even know if that would pass the muster with administration.
Well, you hope that they're calling because it's not you're hoping it's not an emergency.
And half the time in the back of my head, I'm thinking it's an emergency.
Have you been able to cultivate? I want to call them guidelines, family rules, where 2 calls in a row is like a light emergency. 3 calls in a row is you got to answer right now because something's happening, something's burning down. Or
oh yeah, that's just if it's a couple times, then I know it's an emergency, and I've even had my captain answer the phone for me. I'll reach over and say, "It's one of my kids. Answer it." And the captain will say, "Captain so and so, what do you need from your dad?" And then we'll take care of it that way.
Yeah. In those moments, there's a little bit of a garnish of co-parenting.
It is.
Which kind of it all comes back
family.
to it is, and yeah, that's what I was going to say. It all comes back to how you started. It's this camaraderie that's built. It's this incredible brotherhood that you're cultivating while you're in the season of fatherhood, and now with you, what we spoke offline, you're in a new season of grandfatherhood.
Correct.
Right?
Yep. I have a 10-year-old granddaughter. I actually saw her yesterday. Spent some time with her and her mom. And I guess I was a kind of a younger grandfather. I'm 57 and she's 10, so I was 47 when I became a grandfather. But I never felt like the timing was right for that to happen. But
Yeah.
I love it, and she's a great kid, and I think that being a grandfather it's totally different. It's like we have this thing where maybe I'll be having a couple
cocktails, couple 1-2s. Yeah.
and then it's, Grandpa, can I have a hug-a-buck? Oh yeah. So I'll take $1 out. She'll come give me a hug and give her $1. And pretty soon I don't have any more dollars left at the end of the night.
But you got all the love in the world.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's special.
Are there opportunities, you said you got a decade of grandfatherhood with the experience of that. Do you look at being a grandfather as an opportunity to maybe be more present than you were as a dad, or maybe there were elements of fatherhood that you wish you could take back that maybe now you can relive and do a different way with a grandchild? Are there any elements of that or a lens that you can kind of speak towards?
The biggest thing I've gotten out of it is that she knows that I love her mom very much, and her mom loves me very much. And I'm really very happy that she sees that. The granddaughter sees that.
Yeah.
And I don't see her a whole lot because I'm still working, still busy, and she's co-parented it as well. She goes to her dad's and then she goes to her mom's, and so we got a plan on meeting up and whatnot. But I just I can tell, I can feel that she knows that her mom is loved by grandpa, you know, and that trickles on down to her,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
We're in the heat of, we got a toddler and we're expecting a second in the next few weeks. So we'll be a 2 under 2 home. And I like hearing your perspective from a grandfather lens, because obviously as a parent, you want to give your kids the best of yourself all the time. You want to be sharp. You want to be alert. You want to be patient. But that doesn't happen, does it?
No. And no. It, my kids never slept through the night.
All 5?
Yeah. Especially, well, yeah, all 5 really. Uh, it was extremely difficult. And you know how many times I got elbowed? Like, oh, I got to work tomorrow and it's my turn, really?
Yes, I do. I do know those.
Yeah.
My wife may attest to a lack of elbow response, but I guess I would still say I take some of those night shifts.
Yeah.
The night before coming on to shift. So, man, that's funny. How about you kind of you spoke earlier towards this organic um superpower, if you will, of separating your work from your home life. How did you cultivate that space with your kids though? Because your kids obviously knew where you were and what you were doing. Are you Was there a time where you're sharing these calls, these responses with your kids? Did you kind of leave it an element of surprise? How in
Good
depth?
question.
How in depth did you get with them?
Not very in depth.
Okay.
Yeah. And
You can do that now that they're adults and they've kind of lived a little bit of life.
yeah, I still don't share a whole lot, just other than basic, like it was a freeway wreck or it was a house fire and nobody got hurt. No, and the thing with car accidents, and it's not like it used to be because the cars are a whole lot safer now. And rarely are we extricating. It still happens, but not as frequent as 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's a good thing. That's a positive. I like that. I you know, that's never a good thing when you have to extricate because,
Oh, it's heartbreaking to watch.
yeah,
People are trapped and you're doing all you can with
you know,
the tools that you have. And, I'm sure there's some listeners out there that don't know what we're talking about. Maybe they'll never experience it, but hopefully we can do it justice by articulating it the best we can. People are trapped in their car and
Yeah.
we have the tools to get them out, but no car wreck is the same.
no,
And no matter how much training you do, there's no way you can replicate a perfect training scenario.
Yeah.
It's just,
and it's interesting because you're a paramedic, right?
mhm. Well, I try to be.
Yeah.
It's probably they call it practicing medicine.
A lot of times we got to make room for the paramedic to get in to do their thing while we're still either thinking about or actually working on getting this person out. A lot of times it's so mangled that you have to make a game plan, and time is of the essence. And if there's any way you can get a paramedic in there to start get an IV going, deliver some drugs, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys are right on it. You know what I mean?
You gotta kind of crawl this out.
First on scene,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, man, I kind of want to talk about your legacy here because, over 3 decades, in the fire service. I see it from my lens being less than half of the time you've committed to the fire service. And I'm sure that in our minds right now, we can probably think about people that their sole identity was in their career. And once they were of age to retire, whether it was their decision to leave or not, you kind of worry about those people where their every day, their life and breath, everything is what they do, is their job, it's their career. How have you, and maybe you've kind of spoken about this already in relation to how you've separated traumatic calls from your home life, but you got a couple months left. How do you see yourself living your retirement years?
Well, you mentioned a great word, identity. And I find my identity in Jesus, right? Well, I didn't know Jesus when I first got on the fire department. And I would wear my t-shirt, my fire t-shirt around town longer than what the standard operating procedures would tell you to, because I was so proud. I'm like, I'm a fireman, I'm a firefighter,
Mm-hmm.
And you fast forward, and then I found my identity in Jesus, and uh, I still love my job. And what you talked about, camaraderie, that kept me going through my divorce and through the hard times, financial hard times I had. And there was a time where, like, for years I never called in sick, just because I needed to be at the fire station because the guys were there for me.
Mm.
It was family. And the guy I do taxes with is in his 80s, and he retired from our fire department, and I worked with him for 2 years. He was 58, and I'm going to be 58 when I retire. And he always tell me, he goes, "You'll know when you're ready." Well, I'm ready now.
How do you know?
And I don't know what changed. What It's just that I never wanted to. I'm like, I'm probably going to work till I'm in my 60s because I love coming into work, and I still love my job. But something, a switch turned on, and I'm like, you know what? I'm ready. And like I already said, I'm going to enjoy the rest of next summer, half the summer, and I'll probably get another job elsewhere to keep busy for a few years. But I'm ready to give up my spot for the next person. And it's been a great career, but that's how I see it. It just, I was going to go in November of this year, and I kind of did a scapegoat where, like I said, well, I'm giving my kids an extra 8 months or whatever to stay on my health insurance,
Mm-hmm.
which is true, but I still wanted to stay on a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't quite ready.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm feeling like, yeah, that's, 11 months from now, I'm ready.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I was so excited to talk to you is you have this perspective of this lens to speak towards people like me. Young, I mean, we're young dads and we're young in our career. So I was hoping to gather wisdom and knowledge and experience from you, just to hear how you've lived these past 30 years, both as a career firefighter and as a father, and even now as a grandfather. So, it's a cool thing that we're able to sit down and kind of talk about this. And hopefully there's people that are listening that maybe they're looking for that wisdom as well. Maybe they don't even know that's wisdom that they want.
Right.
But, hopefully they're in a space that they can speak with the older generation and get mentorship. And you mentioned just a little bit ago leaving to open up your spot.
Yeah.
As a promoted driver, you said, have you had opportunities to kind of look around to see who could take over your role and
Oh, yeah.
and mentor them? You've had that opportunity?
I know the guys that want the spot,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of funny because they always tease each other like, I'm going to get it and you're not going to get it. And then when am I going to leave, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I've always gotten that, but I'm leaving when I'm leaving. And as far as mentoring them, they don't need it. They're ready. I know who they are, you know. And one guy doesn't have a few has hazardous materials classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know, when I got the driver's spot on the rescue squad, I didn't have any hazmat classes either, but it was based on seniority. After that, the contract language changed and it became an appointment from administration. So what I did was I actually went to one class in Colorado and they gave me 1 day off because there was 2 work days I needed off. They gave me one and I had to find a duty trade for the other. And I did it because I wanted to tell them that I'm in and I want to be part of the solution. You know, I want to be a good employee on this rig. And this one guy doesn't have these classes. I said, well, I think, you know, you should really do your best to get these classes put in it. And if that takes duty trades or use a vacation day, that you got a way better chance.
For the listeners that are kind of may not know the educational culture for the fire service, you're in a pretty coveted spot.
Yeah.
A lot of people would be very happy with the position that you have.
Yeah.
The rig that you're driving on, the station that you're working at. And in order to be a competitive candidate for that role, continuing education training, which in our role, and I'm sure a lot of other roles, especially the medical side, speaking to that world that I know, you need to continue to maintain the education you have and continue to pursue additional education. At the end of the day, you're doing it to serve your community the best that you can.
Correct.
So I just kind of want some of the listeners to understand that don't really have that lens or understanding, but in order to function in the role that you have right now, that you've been in for such a long time, these people that are about to take that role need to essentially build their resume.
Yes.
To fill these needs.
Correct.
Is that right?
And it's just like you being a paramedic, you have continuing education. Even though when you think you know it all, there's a new drug that comes up, there's a new procedure that comes, there's a new tool, and you got to be sharp. And that same thing with on the hazmat side. They get these new tools and new monitors that come down the pike. It seems it's like a year or 2 years that comes along. We get new equipment and you got to retrain.
When you say hazmat, you're referring to hazardous materials, calls, 911 incidences that involve poisonous substances, oxidizers, all these very dangerous chemicals that need to be figured out and contained.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Then that kind of goes with the specialty that you've been able to cultivate over this 31 years, right?
30 years. 31
years.
Next year.
Okay.
In March, I'll have 31.
Wow. So it sounds like you've been able to leave a pretty good legacy for the next person to take over your role, right? A clear picture of.
Yeah, I hope so. I'd like to think I have. My captain, I have a newer captain, and he said some things to me that were honest and made me like think I've been, I've got like 2 knee replacements, and getting up and out of the fire truck is harder than it used to be. But then he was telling me some things that I could be better at. And I'm like, yeah, he's right. I've come a little complacent. And so I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. So I'm turning that around. I'm not going to leave just being that guy. I want to be the guy that bit into the spot and worked hard and made the guys proud. So I'm slowly doing that. We had a natural gas call on my little overtime day the other day, and I saw one of the young firefighters coming back with the heavy SCBA, and I walked to him, and he's got like 2 years on, and he didn't want to give me the SCBA he was carrying for one of his partners. I said, no, give it to me. That's the stuff my captain was talking about. And I'm like, you're right. I need to do extra. And I feel way better that he was honest with me about that.
Yeah, Christ calls us to be humble spirits. You mentioned this relationship that you have with a captain with, well, how would you say, less time on than you maybe? Is it ever difficult to have a boss work over you, be your supervisor that arguably has less time, less experience? How do you change that lens?
There's a breaking in period, getting comfortable with each other. He's going to do something, she's going to do something that's different than the other one did. And you want to go, well, the other guy did it this way, so you got to get over that. And you got to be humble. You're right. Humility. That's a big part of it. And, I've made mistakes along the way. And I know that my captain loves me as a person. We're good friends. And I really appreciated the fact that he was honest with me about how I was working. And I'm like, I'm going to correct that. I'm going to get better. And it's just the fact that these new guys, they're in their 20s, they're in their 30s, and they jump in and they do things on the rescue squad. They're motivated. And you can become lackadaisical and let them do all the work. And that's what I had started to become. And when he spoke to me about it, I said, I got you, Cap. I'm going to change. You're right. You're absolutely right. And I'll try to grab something and they won't let me take it. You know what I mean? But the effort, if you give the effort, it's appreciated.
Yeah. I keep hearing tones of seeking wisdom, seeking humility, seeking hard work. Are these all attributes that you've learned from the fire service? Have you been, you're nodding your head, yes. Have you been able to teach these to your kids? Was that important to you to
I'm trying.
pass that down to your kids?
Yeah, it's difficult. And even though they're adult kids, they still have a lot to learn from my eyes.
Sure.
And, but for whatever reason they don't, I still love on them.
Yeah.
I choose to love my kids regardless if they're not behaving the way I would like them to behave.
It seems like we're in a world where those traits may be a little old fashioned, but they're not. And we know they're not.
Right.
We know the power of them. We know, especially in our field, we know that it's not our humility. We need to enforce these traits to serve our community, and we have to keep that perspective. There's no world where that perspective can get lost or blurred.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, we kind of want to end this talk, but I will have two questions for you.
Shoot.
Can I ask two more?
Yeah. Love to hear it.
Great. Well, obviously you're sitting on the other side of the table for me. Imagine yourself, you're in a room full of, whether it be men or women like me, my age, that are seeking knowledge and they're seeking wisdom. First, let's talk to the career side of you. What advice would you give a new person in any job? It doesn't have to be the fire service. What advice would you give them to be a good employee?
Work hard. And I see most of the new people, when they go through the academy, they're taught well how to work hard. And it used to be I would get angry if someone didn't. But there's always someone else that sees it as well. And they've taken the action to correct that person. I don't have to do it. It's funny because it's like someone else sees the same thing I do. And I'm like, I'm going to wait and see if that person is going to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a habit. And by the time, if I see that it is, someone else is already on that person. Like, hey, you're doing this and you need to stop it. Which is nice, because I tell you what, I don't like confrontation. I just don't. And back in the day, I used to have a little anger problem, and that's not the way to solve things.
Yeah.
And with my faith, we've gotten away from that. So for a good reason.
I love that answer. Let's speak specifically to new dads. What advice would you give a new father now that you have the perspective of parenting adult kids and being a grandfather? What can you tell us? How can we prepare?
Well, love Jesus, number one, because everything stems from that. And be kind, obviously. The fruit of the Spirit, patience, kindness. That you can never go wrong with that.
I love that. What a great answer. Wow. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This has been really, really terrific to sit down and chat with you. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome. Great questions, too.
You bet. Thank you so much.